Welcome back. A new zero trust maturity model's out from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. CISA says its goal for the model is to align it to the federal zero trust architecture strategy. Beau Hutto is Vice President of Federal at Netskope. Beau, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. What are the architecture concepts that people in agencies should be thinking about to maximize where they're trying to go on zero trust?
Now, Francis, hey, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure, and we're I think simple is better at the end of the day, right? Less is more, and being able to truly modernize your architecture is at the forefront. Mm-hmm. And what that means is an architecture that allows you a single pass architecture instead of this hairpinning that we've done for decades, mm-hmm. right? I think this is the first time in 25 years we've actually had an opportunity to rethink, okay, now that we have all of this moving to the cloud, all this data movement to the cloud, which is our most important resource at this point, other than people, right, of course. But what we're trying to protect is really that data. Mm-hmm. And being able to do that in a way that's really effective, that allows you to transition from on-prem to cloud controls, I think is at the forefront.
That 25-year call out is interesting to me because I came into this space 17, 18 years ago, and there was a lot of discussion when I first came into this space about enterprise architecture. Did a number of interviews, lots of shows about it, and so on. That concept faded away until I would say the zero trust concept revived this discussion around architecture. Is that what you're referring to, that this is an opportunity to really update what's underneath the hood, I imagine?
It is, and I think it's more about how things have transitioned to the cloud as much as it is zero trust, because I think the zero trust was really brought by the transition of data movement to the cloud and how you're going to put controls around the data that's living and breathing within the new edge boundary. Mm-hmm. The boundary is no longer brick and mortar, right? It is out at, you're one of the big three cloud service vendors out there. It's back on premise. It's on our mobile devices, whether it's the watch or the mobile device you have in your pocket.
How does that make an information security official's job in government different in that kind of environment than it was in a perimeter architecture environment?
So with the perimeter architecture environment, you controlled what was within that castle and moat architecture, right? And you knew if it was inside of that, it was protected, right? You might have the insider threat at that point, but that was a whole different realm and opportunity to go down and find. With this now, it's all about the data, and as soon as it leaves your boundary of protection, it's now considered compromised. So it is the duty of the security organization to now make sure that the data is staying within the boundary as much as it is to look for malware and DLP violations and things of that nature, to assure that that data is kept within the boundary and kept, within the constraints of that agency.
Generative AI, obviously very hot. A lot of people in agencies talking about it. Some agencies are doing pilot projects and so on. What's the wrinkle potentially the generative, easy for me to say, AI puts into this discussion?
So generative AI is hot, right? It's being talked about all around the world. You see big companies making moves and government to leverage the technology, and it's worth leveraging. But just like anything else, generative AI is no more than another SaaS application, right? ChatGPT and others. So what we need to be able to do is assure that the controls are in place to make sure that the data in which you share externally into a generative AI environment, into that SaaS, is not PII. It is not source code, right? It's not intellectual property of your agency. And that is no different than what you're doing today with SaaS applications currently. But it's a different mindset. There are policies that need to be written around that. I think the policy and really the workflows that have gone on traditionally need to be enhanced, right? They need to be taken to the next level. The security teams need to look at the threat differently because the threat has changed so massively over the past 3, 4, 5 years.
Beau Hutto, thanks very much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
No, hey, thank you very much, Francis.
You can read more about Zero Trust at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the federal government's watchdog takes a close look at the Pentagon's books. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment.